Hey guys, welcome back to my discussion on visual analytics using Tableau. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. So let's start with today's topic and let me take this particular discussion forward where I'll be explaining you the operations or the visual analytics that we can perform using Tableau. In my last class, I discussed some of the points. So before I start my session, let me show you the dashboard where today's materials has been uploaded and where are the recordings for the last class is also available. So let me show you that first. Let me share my screen for that. Mm. Okay, so let me first show you the dashboard. So today's material, study material or the data files has been uploaded under the session call at the end of this course where actually where the agenda for the Tableau desktop tutorials has been uploaded. So just below that, you can see the data files for 25th May. You can click on this link and you can just download the files or the data set that I'm going to use for today's session. So just under the session at the end of this course on the Tableau, you can just go down and you can see the files has been uploaded over here with the today's date, 25th May.
Amit, various people are saying that they are not able to download this file. Can you please once check?
Not able to download the files. Just allow me. Let me check because I've shared this link over here. I don't know why this Google Drive link is every time creating a problem for me. Just let me check this, guys. Just allow me some time. Just a minute, guys. I'm just fixing this issue.
Yeah, please make it like open in a new tab and then just check the URL whether it is public or not.
That is what I'm doing from the dashboard, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Let me log into this dashboard. Shudanshu mail.
Okay, Amit, found a workaround. Guys, so if you are able to like open and the page where you are seeing that, okay, blocked by X frame option policy, right? So at the top of that page, you will be seeing that like in small letters, data files 25th May is written, right? So from there, you can go ahead and click and you will be able to download it. Okay. So just a minute, Amit, let me share my screen and then.
Yeah, you can click on the, there's a, just above the screen, it is written. You can just, click on that particular link. Are you showing it, Virat?
Oh, if you can also, you can go ahead and share, not a problem.
Okay, fine. Just let me share my screen and then show them. Guys, if you can see my screen, if you click on your dashboard link, the 25th May link, most of you are getting this particular refuse to connect message, right? Just go above over here and click on this particular link, data files 25th May, and you will be able to access the Google Drive. and where you can just get down the files and the PPT for today's discussion. So click on the data set, and once you get into this particular file, you can find the data set for today's discussion. Excuse me. Okay, fine. So I hope I'm able to fix this issue over here. So let me close this window and let me get back to this today's point of discussion. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about. I will continue my discussion where I left my last session, where I was discussing about how to connect the data and what are the things that we need to keep in mind while connecting a data. So I discussed about the types of connection, the live and the uh, extract. I also told you about what is the difference between live and extract connections. Apart from that, I also gave you a walkthrough of the Tableau tool of the various sections. A lot of people who are not from a Tableau or Power BI background, a lot of people who have joined new specifically for this particular session. I'll be talking I'll be taking each of the points individually, and I will talk from the scratch. I will work from the very simple examples from the very scratch, where you can just understand the topic. People who have already attended the last Power BI session, they can just relate these things and they can continue their session on Tableau. People who are not from Excel background, you do nothing to worry about that. You can just work with me. The data set that are available in the drive, you can just download the data set and you can just continue with you can just work along with me. Now, I also got some of the queries where people were getting some HTTPS error while downloading Tableau. So this is a very exceptional error. Even I'm seeing it for the first time. You can just raise a support query in the Tableau official site, and I hope you will be getting a proper resolution for that. So nothing to worry. This kind of issues sometimes may occur due to the net fluctuations also, or some browser settings might need to be changed. They will be guiding you accordingly, so nothing to worry about that. Also, I talked about how you can just install the various versions of Tableau if you don't want to buy the license. And people who are studying into any college, or people who are into associated with any college for a teaching profession, they can also use their required ID, and you can just download the Tableau, and Tableau will be available for 1 year with all the required options in Tableau. You will be able to work with this particular tool. Fine. So today I'm going to talk about some new topics, and I'll be taking to the next level of discussions where I'll start my discussion with sorting. So this is also one of the options in Tableau, which you can use for which is very handy in terms of sorting your data. And after that, I will be going to the visual analytics level, where I'll be discussing some common visuals like scatterplot, histogram, bar graph, pie charts, line graph, stacked bar graph, and if time permits, I will discuss about stacked bar graph and donut, because these are the advanced visualization part of Tableau. So this is also I have tried to include in today's agenda. However, it is not involved in the PPT that I have shared. Don't worry, I'll be updating these things. Only these 2 points are not updated, but rest of the slides are available in the PPT. You can just go through that PPT, and I'll be just trying to cover all these points that has been mentioned over here. Now let's get back to the business. Last class, I try to connect with this particular file in Tableau. Let me connect the file, that is Superstore file. And I try to show you a lot of options like which is available in Tableau, like in terms of filter shelf, row shelf, column shelf, what are measures, what are dimensions, and how to work on local and global formatting, how to work on aggregations in local and global ways. Now, I'll be working this file for a particular example before I move to the next set of discussions, that is visuals. Now, sometimes what happen, let me show you a small example, how we can sort your data. Now, let me drag this order file over here. So each and every topic that I'm discussing, guys, is a very important part in the initial stages when you try to connect with your data. So these are the things that uh, will be when we'll be working on the dashboard part. These are the very vital options, the best practices that you can follow while creating a dashboard, because at the end of the day, our ultimate aim is to create a dashboard and stories and publish it, right? Fine. So I have connected this data, the connection type, I have kept it onto the live. I've used a live connection type for this particular example, or you can select any particular type. I've also discussed about how you can just save the extract format. You can just review my previous session. Now, suppose I want to, I have I want to sort my data in my graph. Suppose, for example, so before I show you this example, I have also tried to explain you last session the types of the ways that you can follow to drag or to use the measures and dimension pills for your report. So I have told you drag and drop, point and click, and double click, right? Now, let me show you a small example. Suppose I want to show you the product subcategory and the profit for this example. So what I have done, I have selected the product subcategory, hold down my control key and select the profit, go to show me, and this time let me select this particular bar graph. Now you can see that the profit in terms of the product subcategory has been marked over here. Now some of the bars over here are showing in an inverse way. That means these are the products or the product subcategories on which we have incurred loss. So if I hover my mouse on this particular bar graph, you can see the value of this particular bar graph is in minus. That means we have incurred a loss on this. So how we can just, so instead of using this bar graph in this particular way, why can't we short this graph? So keeping the uh, items which have incurred loss in one section and keeping the items in the other sections on which we have incurred a profit. So in order to sort this particular bar graph, there's a very important option available over here. You can see just above the column shelf, there are two options over here. See, if you hover your mouse in one of the options, you can see an ascending and a descending menu that is available just above the column shelf. So in order to sort this particular graph, what I can do, I can just click in one of the options and you can see that you just need to click on one of the options. Let me show you once more. So let me select this particular ascending options over here and click on it. And you can see all the goods on which, all the product subcategory on which we have incurred a loss has been grouped in a single what you can say in a single section of this particular visuals. You can also keep the loss below and the profit above. So you can just you can just arrange your items in a particular visuals with the help of these two particular options. One is ascending and the other is descending. This is a very important options that is available in Tableau. It is a very handy option. Now, last class, as I was discussing, I also told you that this particular section, this marks section, holds a very important place. This is the format section through which we can format the visuals that we are going to use in, that we are going to create in Tableau. Now, guys who are people who have attended this particular the Power BI session, I'm sure they know that the format option in Power BI is available just beside the value field. But in Tableau, this particular section is available in the right hand side. Now each and every member of this mark section changes with the visuals that we use. In my future discussions, you can see, you will be seeing that these are the marks, that the cards that's available under this particular section, that is the color, size, level, details, tooltip. These all cards gets changed with the different visual that you are going to use. Now what if I drag the, what I can say, if I drag the profit into the color shelf. Now I can see the moment I drag this particular profit measure into a color shelf, the colors of the bar graph has been changed. Now if I drag the product subcategory on the colors, you can see for each of the product subcategory we have a different bar graph. Excuse me. So these are the way that we can use this particular marks section in order to format our report, in order to make a report more and more interactive and more elaborative in terms of understanding the different parts of this data. So this is all about sorting. You can use this ascending and descending order to sort your items in your visuals as per your convenience. The next topic that I'm going to start today is all about visual analytics. So I'll be starting with some basic charts, and slowly I'll go to the advanced visualization. So let me rename this particular page over here as sorting. The next topic is visual analytics. So what is visual analytics? People who are new, who have joined for the first time, for them especially, because other people might having a fair bit idea till now. Visual analytics is nothing but solving a problem that is from your data in the, and presenting your data into a information or in a graphical manner. In simple language, is a graphical representation of your data, which is used for drawing certain information which is very important in terms of your organization growth or in terms of profit or sales. So visual analytics is a process or is a way of representing your data in a graphical form, simple form. It helps to identify the trends, patterns, and relationship in your data. Now, each and every point that is I'm talking about, that trend, patterns, and relationship, these all have a different effect in your report. We have a different visuals for different types of segments that is available, the different types of findings that we want from our data. And it is also helpful, visual analytics is also helpful in application which involve large and complex data. Sometimes we need to build a report which requires a lot of monitoring and a lot of interaction with that particular report. In those cases, visual analytics gives you lot of convenience to interact with and monitor your data, a lot of convenience in the way how you interact or how you monitor your data. For example, the way I've showed you how we are using some of the options over here in order to interact with this particular report. Now, in this particular point, visual analytics, the first visuals that we're going to discuss about is Scatterplot. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. Scatterplot is also known as a XY plot. Now forget about the definitions. Let me talk about in terms of an example. The scatterplot, first of all, the definition of scatterplot says that it helps you to find the relationship between two measures in your data set. Now measures means this section. So two measures in your data set, how they interact with each other. How? Suppose, as you can see in the screen, I'm trying to talk about over here the two measures. For example, if there's a local shop who is selling sweaters, and if he's keeping a track of his sales, everyday sales, you can see that at the end of certain period, he can see whenever the temperature is going down, his sales is increasing. The sales of sweater increases. Now, suppose in compared to when the temperature was 11.7 degrees Celsius, he was making a sale of $760 compared to when the temperature was 28.3 degrees Celsius, his sales was coming down to $202. So scatterplot can be used, or scatterplot is used to find the relationship between two measures or two components, data components in your data set. Now let me give you one more scenario. As your income increases, your expense also increases. So it's a normal human trend, right? If your income increases, your expense also get increases. So over here, the income and expense are the two, you can say values, which are where we can establish a relationship. To get into a better example, if I say the more uh, elderly aged people, the expense of medicine is more compared to young people. So as we grow old, as our parents or as our grandfather, mother are getting old, their consumption of medicine increases. That means the expense on their medicine increases with their age. Now, why I'm giving you this example? In order to understand the concept of dependent and independent variable. Now, in order to work on a scatter plot, it's very important for us to understand the concept of dependent and independent variable. Now, if you can see the example over here, the temperature versus sweater, can you just comment your answers in the chat box or in the comment section as which is a dependent and which is the independent variable between temperature and sweater. It's very important that before you start working on the scatter plot, we need to first identify a dependent and an independent variable. Over here in this example, you can see sales is a dependent variable and temperature is an independent variable, because the sales of the sweater is completely dependent on the temperature of that particular region. So in this particular example, we can see sales is a dependent variable, and as per the rule of scatter plot, a dependent variable should be always be in the y-axis. Now, in terms of income and expenses, can you just answer me which is a dependent variable and which is an independent variable? You can just mark your answers in the comment section. The same goes for in terms of cost of the medicine, which increases compared to the age of a person. Can you just figure out which is a dependent and which is an independent variable? Now, this is in order to find this particular relationship between two measures in your data set, we'll be using the concept of a scatter plot. Now, for this particular example, I'll be using a data set that is for car makers. So this is the particular example that I'm going to use. This is a CSV file. Let me open this file for you and explain the data set before I start working on this. So let me open this. Yes, I'm getting a lot of answers, correct answers. Yes, correct. Expenses are dependent variable. Correct, correct. A lot of answers. Yes, correct, guys. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of right answers over here. Good. So now that you have understood the concept of dependent and independent variable, let me show you this example where which contains certain observations in terms of the manufactured by the manufacturers of a different car. So this particular data set contains the car ID or the makers, what type of car, fuel type. So this is a typical data set which contains the details of a car that has been manufactured by different companies or producers, and who has tried to capture some of the details in terms of the architecture and the features of each of the car. Now let me connect this particular example with Tableau desktop, and let us take some of the information from here. So we have a scenario over here. The scenario is, let us find or let us explore the relationship between car price and the power. So over here in this particular data set, there is a column which actually denotes the horsepower of the car. So let me connect this first, and then it will be easy for me to show you. So what I can do, I can just remove this particular data set. Let me close this data set. Let me clean this screen. So as this is the CSV file, I'll be using this text file connector from my connect session. So either you can use it directly from here, connect to data, or you can click on this Tableau logo and go to text file over here, and you can click on this car maker data set. So let me first discuss the scenario. The scenario is, I want to create a scatter plot as mentioned over here, which show where I need to know that what is the relation, how the price of the car is getting affected with the increase in horsepower. And in this particular exam scenario, we'll be working on the dependent and the independent measures. We need to identify among price and power, horsepower, which is a dependent and which is the independent variable. And now suppose I want to buy a car which is more than 170 HP. So how my price of the car and what are the sections of the car that will be coming under that particular horsepower. So this is a scenario where I have to actually highlight the power of the car, 170 HP power of the car, where I need a suggestion from this particular chart as what are the cars which are available more than 170 HP horsepower, and what are the price of those cars. So what I have done, I have connected to this particular data set, and let me go to this sheet one. As we can see, this particular carmaker.csv already been connected. Go to sheet workspace, and before I start working, let me have a look. As I mentioned in my previous session, that you need to first have a fair look. You have to go through this particular data set, whether it needs certain changes, where if certain major components should be shifted to the dimension or not, or certain dimension should be needs to be shifted into the measure. So it's very important that you have a look before you start working. Now that I can see that, okay, fine, my data set looks good. Now let me first create a scatter plot. Now, in order to create a scatter plot, the scenario says that I need to see the car price and power. So go to Tableau desktop, select the car ID, and now as I mentioned, you need to use a point and click method, right? So select the car ID, press down your control key, go to price, and there is also an option called horsepower in the measure. Select that one. Come to show me section, and you can see that Tableau is suggesting you lot of other visuals that you can build out of this particular dimensions and measures, but out of which you can see the scatter plot. The scatter plot chart or the scatter chart is being highlighted by Tableau. So you select this chart, and you can see that our first scatter plot has been created. Now, if you can watch carefully, there is a basic mistake in this chart. The price is coming in the x-axis and the horsepower is coming in the y-axis. Now, as per the rule of Scatterplot, I think price is a, can you just comment which is a dependent and which is an independent value in this particular scatter chart? So price, in this case, price is a dependent variable because price of the car changes as the horsepower increases. And as I mentioned in my discussion, that a dependent variable should be always be in the y-axis. Now, how can I take this price from an x-axis to an y-axis? The question is. In Power BI, we used to have a different chart for this kind of things. We can just select the chart from, but in Tableau, we don't have an option because we have a very limited charts over here. And we don't think there's an option over here from we can just change the axis. In order to change this axis, what do you have to do? Just as I showed you the ascending and descending options earlier, just beside that, there is an option called interchange your, swap your rows and columns. You click this option and here we go. The price and the horsepower has been changed. Price has shifted to the y-axis and horsepower has been shifted to the x-axis. Now, if you can see carefully, the price of this particular data set, the cars are always dependent on the horsepower. Let me expand this particular chart. You can just expand your chart. Click on this option over here and click entire view. And you can see you have expand your chart. Now, if you can see the trend of this data, there is a cluster over here. And you can see that the trend is saying that the price is low when the horsepower is less. But if you can see this section, you can see the higher price, we can see in higher horsepower. So this is a roughly the rough trend you can see, or the rough relation between the price and the horsepower. You can get an, or you can see an overview of how the price is increasing compared to the increase in horsepower. That is important to watch. And this is the motive for which we are using the scatter plot. So you can see for 210, or there's also a car over here. This is car ID number 47, which have a price of 36,000 with a horsepower of 262. And compared to this, there's a car ID of 68 whose price is 45,400 compared to the price of this particular car where the horsepower is less than this car. So we are getting an overall idea. Now, what if I want to explore this particular area, this particular plot area in this scatter plot? Because we can see there's a lot of overlapping car IDs over here. So how can you explore this particular area? This particular area is creating a cluster over here. So in order to explore this area, you can right click on the chart and click on show view toolbar. You can right click on your chart, click on show view toolbar, and in this particular toolbar you can see there's an arrow button over here. The moment you hover your mouse in this particular arrow button, there is a magnifier or a zoom area which is available over here. You click on this zoom area and you can just explore this particular area, and you can see what are the cars that is available in this area. You can zoom it to the fine details and you can see the cars over here. So see the details of the car till in horsepower 68, we can see 3 cars over here in this price range. Now, if you want to again zoom out, you can just click on this particular arrow, pin arrow, and you will be again will be taken to the previous state, the initial state of this chart. Now, the two take backs from this particular example is that how we can see that the price is dependent on the horsepower and how the price of the car gets affected when the horsepower is increasing. Now, Coming back to the scenario, I want to buy a car more than 170 HP. Now I want to see that how many cars are there and what are the price of the car that are available which are more than 170. In that case, if you can remember, people who have attended my Power BI sessions, we can add a reference line in Scatterplot. That's a very important, very handy option. How can we add a reference line? Now, in some of the people might not be getting this particular x-axis details. The numbers may change for some of the people. It depends on the screen size and resolution, guys. So please don't get confused. Let me make things very clear for you. In some of the screens, these access numbers may be changed, or maybe seems to be maybe showing some different numbers. Instead of starting from 0 to 10, it might be showing 0 to 20. So don't get confused. It's all same. It depends on the screen size. Because Tableau visuals takes the size of the screens and they manipulate their size and numbers as per the screen size. Now coming back to the point, if I want to buy a car which is more than 170, I just wanted to know the price of the car within that range, correct? So for that, you can just go into this x-axis, do a right click over here, and there will be an option over here called edit axis, or there's an option over here called add reference line. How do I do? Go into the x-axis. You can hide your toolbar by right click on this particular option, and you can hide your toolbar. So I want to remove my toolbar from here. Now I want to edit my axis. I want to mark that axis of 170 over here. So how can you do? Go to your x-axis, right click, and click on add reference line. Now in this add reference line, you can see the options over here, which is by default a line option. There are other options also over here like distribution band. I will discuss about them in the future course of discussion. Now in this scope menu, we can see there's a per pan option available over here. In this per pan option, you have to select this constant options over here, and you can see the moment I select constant option, there is a reference line that has been automatically created over here. So what I can do, I can change this particular value to 170 and click on OK. So I've got a reference line over here. So now I can see a section of this particular scatter plot, the cars that are available more than 170 horsepower. Now what if my budget is anything above 25,000 or below 25,000? So I want to spend $25,000 for this particular purchase of this car where horsepower is 170. So I can do the same thing for the y-axis, and we can just click on add reference line. In this particular scope option, the per pan option should be selected, or if it is not selected, select this option. Come to the line section. Under line section, the values, change it from average to constant, and you can change it to 25,000. And we can also format the line. Instead of having a straight line, you can have a dotted line. You can also change the color of the line in this particular window. So I have selected an orange color for this, and you can click on OK. Now let's see how this scenario has changed. Excuse me. Not very well, sorry. Sorry. So we can see that how we have added a reference line from here, and we can see now we can get a clear picture. If I want to purchase a car whose horsepower is more than 170 HP and whose price is less than 25,000, so these are the car ID, that is 69 and 70. These are the cars that are available below $25,000. Now the next question is, how can I identify whether these cars are gasoline cars or whether diesel cars or petrol car? There's a next big question that is coming in my way. So before above 170 and below 25,000, the cars that I've got two cars. Now I'm confused whether these cars are diesel cars or petrol car. In that case, what we can do? we'll make this particular marked section, the cards available in the marked section, how they help us to find a correct answer for this. How? There is an option in the dimension section called fuel type. If I can show you the data source, in the fuel type option, you can see there are two options. One is gas, and you can see diesel. So gas is for petrol and diesel is as a different segment of fuel. What I can do, I can bring the fuel type into the color section. So this is one of the option you can see. Now, as I drop the fuel type in the color section, we can see that there are two segments created. The blue is for the diesel and the orange is for the petrol. Now I've got my answer for my second question, that both the cars that I want to purchase above 170 and below $25,000 are both petrol cars. Now somehow if I share this report to any other person whom I wanted to discuss all these things, he might be uh, getting confused by the shape of this particular bubbles that is available over here. So what we can do, we can create a different shape for the gas and for the diesel. In that case, what we can do, we can bring the fuel type from the dimension and we can release it over the shape. Now we can see that all the petrol cars have become square and all the diesel cars are become a circle. We can also change this particular shape. We can just click on this shape and you can just take the shape of your choice. You can click on this drop down and you can just select all the available shapes over here. For example, if I select a field option and I select a diesel and I select a triangle for this and a gas, I select a cross for this, I can apply. You can see that for the petrol we have a different shape and for the diesel we have a different. We can also change the size of the shape. We can increase the size as per your convenience. So we can see that how this marked section is getting used, how we can use this marked section to format a report. So now I have got my answers that I want to go for this particular two car IDs like the 69 and 99 for my budget as they suit my budget and my requirement. So this is a typical example of a scatter plot that I wanted to show you, and how we have used a scatter plot in order to find certain answers from our data. So we are able to use this particular data set to find our example. The next is histogram. What is an histogram? It's a graphical display of data using bars of different heights. Now, there are a lot of people who gets confused between histogram and bar graph. So that's why I have kept the next example as a bar graph, so that it'll be easy for you to differentiate between these two. So histogram is appropriate way to show the result of a continuous data, like in terms of a distribution of height, weight, or currency. Now in Tableau, before I start the example of a histogram, it's very important for you to know that what is a continuous data and what is a discrete data. So there are two kinds of data that I will be working over here. For this example, I'll be using a continuous data. That is not a big deal. But for the future discussions, I'll be referring a lot of discrete data or continuous data. Now it's very important for you to understand a continuous data or a discrete data. For example, the best way which I feel for explaining continuous data and discrete data is with a real world example. So if I talk about continuous data, where the value of the numerical can take any form. For example, your height can be 11.6 inches, 11.2 inches. Suppose your weight, your age, these are all a typical example of a continuous data. where the numerical value takes any form as per the requirement or as per the segment of the data. And what is a discrete? A discrete is a for where the numerical values have a definite form. For example, number of persons who have passed through a door. So at a time, there can be a fixed number of persons who can pass through the door, right? It's either be 3, 4, 10, 5. It cannot be 10.5% have passed through the door. So histogram is a very important example in order to show you the how our continuous data has been, how continuous data is used in our data set in order to find how the continuous data getting distributed in our data set. So for histogram in Tableau, we need a count and a bin. So Tableau will is intelligent enough to create a bin for each of the data or each of the visuals that are going to use in creating a histogram. Now I might be sounding a bit confused for you. It's obvious because even in my when I was learning histogram, even I didn't get some of the things. Yes, but the thing is that the example, if I get an example, good example for you, it will be easy for you. So let me show you an example of a histogram. So the scenario that I'm going to discuss will be using the same data set and will be find the length distribution of the cards in this particular data set. So there is a section over here called length. So let me use this concept of length, how the different, what you can say, how the different length of the card. So let me first rename this particular file, this particular page, let's Scatterplot. The next page, let's take a new page and let us rename it as histogram. And what I will do in order to find the scenario is we need to explore the length distribution of the cars in our data set. Now, as the rule says that Tableau will by default create a count and a bin from the data set that you are going to use on which we need to find the length distribution of the car. So what I will do, I will come over here, select the length measure from my data set, go to show me, and you can see that out of these visuals, Tableau is referring me, suggesting me the visuals like either I can go for a text table or a horizontal bar or a histogram. So I wanted to find the length distribution of cards in my data set. So I will select the length, click on histogram. And here we go. Now there are a lot of things that I need to observe over here. The moment I click on length and click on show me and selected histogram, there is a default length bin that has been created under the dimension section. Let me show you once more. Let me delete this particular day. If I select length and go to show me, click on histogram, there's a default length bin that is created automatically under your dimension section. So what does Tableau do? Tableau actually is intelligent enough to create a bin for the distribution in order to find the length distribution in your data. So this particular bin contains the range. So in this particular range, between 140 to 145, the number of cards which are available, that is 1. Now between 170 and 180, the number of cards can have a different segment of cards. So the highest number of distribution of car is having the length 172 is 38 over here. Now what we can do, we can change this length bin. We can just edit the numbers over which is available in this length bin. How can you do that? We can go to this length bin over here, select this, and we can click on this arrow over here, click on edit. And you can just change this particular bin size. So by default, it is 4.66 over here. You can change it to 10. The moment I increase the length size of the bins, you will be see that the number of bars that is being used in the histogram will reduce. I click on OK, and you can see now I have a proper bin distribution of 10, like from 140 to 150, the number of cars are 3. Between 150 to 160 bin, the number of cars are 150. So the highest number of cars we can see over here is 69 in the bin size of 170 to 180. So we can see that the distribution of the length in terms of the car are easily been achieved through the histogram visual. Now, what if I want to know how many cars are there? I want to label this particular visual. So there are two ways. Either you can click on this T uh, menu over here, which is located in the menu, just above the column shelf. If you can click on this T, you can see that all the bars of the car has been labeled. So there are 3 cars between 140 to 150, 30, 37, 69 is the highest length. The number of cars which is available between 170 to 180 is highest. That is 69 cars are there. Either you can click on this particular T, or you can just bring the number of records. Remember, I told about this particular feature, number of records, which is by default created by Tableau. You can drag this number of records and release it over the level section in your mark section, and you can see we'll get the same numbers. So this is all about the histogram, which I have used for uh, finding that distribution of length in my car data set. You can also play around this particular chart. You can also change the color of this particular chart from the color mark. You can play around with the size, the manual, and you can just click on this particular size, and you can just increase the size of the bars as per your convenience. However, it does not satisfy the condition of histogram, but still you can just play around this particular size from the size card. So there are two options, manual and fixed. You can also change the alignment, which is as of now grayed out. You can give a fixed size for this. What if I give 20 over here? So you can see the change, the visual changes its particular views. So you can just play around this particular mark chart for this histogram. So this was all about histogram that I wanted to discuss with you. The next example is bar graph. So we can see, before I go to the bar graph, so the third point that I missed to discuss with you, that for histogram we need a count and a bin. So you can see that over here, the moment I created a histogram, there's a count of the length in the y-axis has been created, and a bin has been automatically created in the dimensions. The same you can do for height also. What if I wanted to find the height distribution? I can select this height, and you can go to click on histogram, and you can see there's a height bin that is created automatically. So in Tableau, what the idea behind this particular discussion is that in Tableau, it will automatically create a bin whenever you are going to work on a histogram, and it will also find the count of that particular bin. You can also play around this particular chart. You can just edit this axis. You can edit this axis particular, and you can just edit this axis. You can just change the name of the axis also from here. So suppose you don't want to write it of a height bin, you can just keep it any other name, car height you can say. And you can close it. You can also edit this particular bin also from here. You can just click on edit, and you can just change the size of the bin. The more the increase your size, the less will be the bars in your histogram. You can see I have changed it to 10. There are only 2 bars available over here. If I change it to lesser bin size, for example 4, so I have the number of bars in the histogram has increased. So as you change the size of this particular bin, it affects the visuals. It reduces the number of bars in your histogram. The next example is a bar graph. Now, what is a bar graph? It's same like an histogram with the bars of a different height, but it helps us to find the categories in your data. For example, if we want to find the population of the number of states in India, we can use a bar graph for that in order to compare the population state wise. So if you remember, initially, in my first section of Tableau, I have discussed a segment, a visual segment, where I discussed that what are the charts that I'm going to use for this visual segment. In my previous two examples of Scatterplot and histogram, can you tell me for Scatterplot which visual segment which I have used? I have used a relation visual segment. So Scatterplot is a typical example of a relation visual segment where I have tried to find out the relation between the uh, price and the horsepower in order to make a proper choice. The histogram comes under the distribution, and the bar graph that I'm going to discuss now comes under the comparison. So all the visuals that I'm going to use today, I'll request you just to check whether you're able to figure it out for which visual segments I'm using it or not. So the next example is a bar graph. Now for this bar graph, what I will be using, I'll be using a particular example. So bar graphs, the definition of bar graph is that it is used for finding the categories in your data. And it also have a visual demarcation of having a gap. So bar graph and histogram is the difference is that in histogram we don't have a gap, in bar graph we have a gap. Now the example that I'm going to use for is will be the same where I'll be trying to find out the number of cars for each category. So there is a car category that is over here, and I will also try to find out the price of those cars. How? So let me go to the next sheet. Let's rename this sheet as bar graph or bar chart. And I will try to find out the number of styles. So there is a column over here as body style. Over here there are options like convertible, hatchback, sedan, a wagon. So what are the different numbers of car that is available for each of the body style? So for that, what I will do, I will select the body style from dimension and the number of records, because we have a single row for each of the body style in our data set. So I've selected the body style and number of rows, click on show me, and you can see this bar graph is horizontal bar is automatically highlighted over here among all the suggested visuals. So click on this horizontal bar and you can see that we have got the number of cars that is available for each of the body style. So what we can do, we can just use this particular swap rows and column option to make this bar graph a bit convenient for us to see, and we can just expand this bar graph as per our convenience. So you can just hover your mouse in the edges of this particular visual. Sometimes it gets very difficult to find the edges, but anyhow you can just hover your mouse and you can just resize your bar chart, or else you can just use these particular options over here. So I can see that for convertible, all the required body size or the body style of the car, these are the number of cars that we have. So what we can do, we can click on this T options over here and you can find the number of cars that is available for each of the body style. Now, what if I want to have a different color for the different body style? So we can just bring the body style over the color mark, and we can have a different colors for the different body style that we have. So we can see the largest collection of our cars are in the sedan model. We have 94 cars for this particular model, and we can easily recognize that the highest production of car has been made for this particular body style. So this is the typical example of a bar graph, which I wanted to show you. You can see the difference between this bar graph and the histogram is that over here we are using this for distribution, but over here we are using it for comparison. Over here in histogram, we can see that how the length of the car has been distributed among the bin that has been created by the histogram. And over here we can see that how the different categories of body style we can differentiate in terms of the number of cars that we have in this particular data set. Now suppose I want to add a caption in this particular bar graph. So we can go to this worksheet, and you can see there's an option over here, caption. Caption plays a very important, sometimes very handy to use a caption in order to give a description of the visual that you're using. So you can click on this caption, and you can just name. You can use this caption. I can just name this caption as that this is a bar graph, and click on apply, and you can use this caption over here in this power bar. So in a lot of the cases where you can use a caption just to give a description about the chart that you're using. Now the next example that I'm going to talk about is a pie chart. So these are the types of visuals that I'm going to use, more or less. So these are the types of common visuals in Tableau that you can build before you move into the advanced visualization. So pie chart. What is a pie chart? Pie chart is basically show for composition. It shows the percentage of your data, and it also shows it's the best for when you try to show a combination of 2-3 items in your data, or 2-3 contribution of components in your data. For example, in terms of sale, if you want to show the uh, contribution for each of the product category for a different example, you can use a pie chart for that. So let us build a pie chart from this particular example. So what I can do, I can take a new sheet and let name this it as pie chart. So I have heard, I have came across a lot of people who actually says that we should not use a pie chart in a visual, but I feel sometimes, okay, fine, pie chart is a very handy visual, because it is very useful when you're trying to show a less category of data, the composition of a less category of data. For example, if I want to show you the count of the number of cars in terms of fuel type, for example, how many cars are available for diesel and how many cars are available in petrol. So in Tableau we can just use this particular option through a pie chart. So I can just go and select fuel type from here, and number of records from the measures, go to show me, and you can see this pie chart is available over here. So you can click on this particular pie chart, and you can see there's a small pie chart is created over here. You can click on this particular entire view, and you can bring this pie chart in between. Now if you can hover your mouse, you can see there are 175 cars which are in our data set, which belongs to a petrol segment, and 20 cars which belongs to the diesel segment. Now, if I bring the fuel type, if I bring the number of records into the label section, you can see that we are able to label this particular diagram. You can see there are 20 cards and 175 are from the petrol section. What if I bring the fuel type into the label section? So I can see that we are able to label this particular car in terms of diesels and gas. I can also bring the number of records in a label again, and what I can do, I can just change this in order to know the percentage of the car. So if there is a requirement that what percentage of your data set or what percentage of your car in your particular report is belong to the petrol segment, and what percentage of your car belongs to a diesel segment, how we can do that? So Tableau gives you an option of quick table calculation. Now suppose instead of 20 and 175, I wanted to know the percentage of petrol and diesel car in my report. So how can you do that? So what I have done, I have bring the number of records to the label card, and you can see the measure over here, the number of records measure over here. So in that particular measure, if you click on this particular arrow, if you come down, there is an option over here, quick table calculation. You select this particular measure, click on this particular arrow and click on quick table calculation, and there is an option over here called percentage of total. So you can see 10.26% of my data set is consisting of a diesel car, and 89.74% of my cars are from petrol segment. You can also change this color over here. So let me first change this color. I'm not somehow don't like this particular combination. So you can see 89.74% of gas and 29.26% are of diesel. You can also further bring the number of records to the level again, and you can see all the details over here in terms of percentage, number of cars, and the fuel type. You can also change the what you can say font or the menu or the way that they have been displayed over here. For example, if you can click on this level, you can see there's an option over here, text. If you click on this particular option over here, you can see all the three details that is available in this particular chart. You can see over here. For fuel type, you can see diesel, the number of records, for you can see the number of cars in terms of diesel, and the percentage total that we have achieved through quick table calculation is seen over here. Now what you can do, you can just change this particular option. If you want to make it bold, you can increase the size of this particular options over here. I can click apply, and you can see that it has become bold and you have increased the size of this particular option. Now suppose you want to mark it this particular, you want to format this, you can mark this particular diesel as a fuel type. You can see right over here, fuel type equal to diesel. So you can see I have written fuel type equals to diesel, and again I am going to write this number of cars equals to, and you can see the percentage cars. And click on apply, and you can see that you can mark all these particular visuals as per your convenience. So these are some of the options that I want to say that which you will not get in Power BI. This is the advantage of using a Tableau. You can just format it as per your convenience in the visual level only. These options, if you can go for these options in Power BI in the format section, I can, as per my experience, I can say that okay, fine. Some of the options may be very, it will be very difficult for you to achieve in Power BI compared to Tableau. And that is where Tableau gets a bit of advantage compared to Power BI. People who have started their journey with Tableau initially they will find it a bit difficult in terms of Power BI, or people who have worked on their have they started their learning from Power BI. Somehow I feel that okay, fine, as I have worked in Tableau initially, I think that okay, fine, working in Tableau is always being what I can say, it's easy for me compared to Power BI. However, I am comfortable working in both the tools in my day-to-day business requirement. I have to use the concept of Power BI and Tableau both. But there are certain scenarios, I must say you guys, I want to share you, there are certain business scenarios which will be very easily achieved in Power BI compared to Tableau. Now, for example, in my today's discussion, if I can take this forward, if you want to build a stacked bar chart in Tableau, and if you want to build a stack bar chart in Power BI, guys, I must say that it's quite easy to build a stack bar chart in Power BI compared to Tableau. Now, if you want to build a donut chart in Power BI, I know Power BI guys can easily just select the donut chart and you can just, but in Tableau, I will show you how we can build a donut chart. Now, the rest is up to you how we can take it as what is easy with this Tableau or its Power, because see, each and every tool has their own sets of features. If you can ask me, I will always prefer Tableau over Power BI in certain business scenarios. And obviously, being working with Tableau for a long time, I have got a lot of I am able to achieve a lot of scenarios easily compared to Power BI. So these are the some of the scenarios that I wanted to highlight you, where I can just add more details to the card, to my visuals from my end easily. So this was all about pie chart. So I have used this particular example to show you the how we can use a pie chart to find a composition of my data. The next example that I'm going to show you is a line chart. Just a minute, guys. I missed something. Okay, so before I start my discussion on line chart, as I will be using a different scenario for this particular example, I just wanted to have a walkthrough that how we have used the concept of scatter, histogram, bar graph, and pie chart, and how these particular charts can be used on the different ways of implementation with this particular example. So we have built a scatter chart where we have defined a particular scenario and we have tried to achieve the get the answers in terms of that particular scenario. Now in scatter chart, this particular reference line, now some of the few tips that I want to give you in terms of all the visuals that I have created. First, in this particular scatter chart, this particular reference line that I have used, in this particular example, I am using a static reference line. But there will be scenarios where you will be working with dynamic reference line. So I'll be coming up with this particular discussion also, where this particular reference line can be made dynamic. It can change as per the data sets that you provide, as per the scenario. Just like in Power BI, I have created a dynamic reference line in terms of years. We can do the same thing in Power BI in Tableau also. Second, uh, the second thing that I wanted to discuss over here in terms of our best tips was, yes, for bar graph, we have been using the body style for each of the car section. So what happens for each of the car in this data, each row has been dedicated for each of the body style. For a single body style, we have a single row. What if you have to count, if you have a number of rows for a single body style, or a single row for a number of body style, in that case, you will be using a formula called count D. So I will be talking about that count formula. So these are the certain scenarios that will come across. We can go and explore this chart more and more, a better way. So count is a kind of formula which is used for counting the distinct value in your any particular data. So you'll be using those kind of options over here to find this kind of scenarios, to work on this kind of scenarios. Fine. So the next example that I'm going to use is a line chart. And for this, I'll be using a different data set. So let me connect to this data set. And before connecting, let me describe you this data set. So what is a line chart? A line chart comes under the visual segment of trend. If you come to this visual segment, till now we have discussed about distribution, comparison, composition, and relation. Now we'll come into this particular trend. This segment is called trend. In order to find the trend, a trend is found over a period of time, right? For example, if you're running every day, now if you're taking a data for every day of your the weight of your data, that how it's getting changed over the period of time. If I run 2 kilometers today for 1 week, or 2 kilometers for 10 week, how much that affects my weight. If I run for 4 kilometers for a continuous 15 days, how does that affect my weight? So these are the certain readings, these are the certain what I can say, mm, certain notes or certain records that you keep. And if you can keep that if you can just plot it to connect those particular information one with the another, in terms of the for day 1 2 kilometers, for 10 days 2 kilometers, for 5 days 2 kilometers, if you can connect those particular dots in your record, and you can just use a line graph, you will find the trend from your data set. So that particular segment we will be using a line graph. Now there are two kinds of line graph available in Tableau. I will show you both the line graph. The first is a continuous line graph, and the second is a discrete line graph. There's one more third dual line, but I will be using that particular example over here only. Don't worry. Now, what is a continuous line graph and what is a discrete line graph? So for this example, I'll be using this particular data set is called birth ratio. Let me open this data set and show me what kind of data is available over here and how we can use this particular data set for describing the line graph. Now this particular data set contains a month-wise, you can say, data in terms of male and female birth. Now let me connect this particular data set to my Tableau and see how we can just use the concept of line graph in order to find out some of the trends in the data. So first let me open my desktop. Let me connect to my another data. So what you can do, you can either connect it from here, new data source, in this report section, click on this particular new data source. And what is the kind of data? This is an Excel file. So click on this Microsoft Excel and you can just click on birth ratio. And you can see that the birth rate data has been updated over here. And you can see the data. You can the car maker data is available above, and in the second example of data is available over here. Now, coming back to our discussion. So line chart. Line chart is used for showing the trend. Now, what if I want to know the female birth rate trend over the period of time? So initially I will be working with a discrete line chart. So what I will do, I will select the month. Now there are a lot of important things that I need to watch over here. When this is the first time that I'm going to use a date component, because line chart, the trend is fine with compared to in consideration of the time. If you if you can see my definition over here, data shapes with the respect of time. So there's a time aspect that is involved over here. Now there's a lot of new things that I want, there are a lot of things that I want you guys to observe over here. The first, this is the first time that I'm going to use a time element in my report. So what I will do, I want to find the trend of a female birth in my in this particular data set using a line graph. So I'll select a month. Again, I'll use a point and click method. I will select the month and the female birth. Go to show me, and you can see that both line, the continuous line graph and the discrete line graph, both are highlighted over here. But over here, out of these two, the discrete line graph is what getting highlighted out of the suggestions made by Tableau desktop. So let us select this discrete line graph and see how this particular trend of the birth rate has been changed in terms of a female birth rate. So we can see that the trend is upward trend. Initially it started over here. So there was a point of down over here, but things got improved in terms of female birth rate. And so there might be certain changes in the government. There will be a lot of factors. There might be certain changes in natural calamity, natural changes, or in terms of government rules and regulations, which have actually have changed this trend of this particular birth rate of the female chart. Now the things that I want you guys to focus on this particular example. The moment I drag this particular date column into the column shelf, you can see that there is a plus sign that has been created beside this month dimension. So if you click on this particular month dimension, you can see that it has been bifurcated, or the next level of a bifurcation has been taken place in terms of quarter. Now if I click further, you can see it has been changed in terms of month. If I again click on this particular plus sign, you can see it has been changed in terms of day. Now the take back from this particular example is that date by default creates a hierarchy in your report. Just like if you can relate to Power BI, where we were getting a default hierarchy in date. Whenever you used to drag a date into a value field, we have to remove the hierarchy from your date. So you have to, in the same way, we can also remove the hierarchy from here. You can just reduce it. You can click on this minus sign, you can click on the year sign, minus sign, and you can reduce the hierarchy. You can again increase the hierarchy as per your convenience. Now slowly we are moving to the advanced visualization level from this particular example. So I am trying to explain you what happens when we include a date element in our data set. So we are using a discrete line chart. Now, this particular trend is showing a year on year trend. Now, what if I want to change it to a quarter and see? So for each year, we are having a quarter over here. Now, what if, let me mark it as a discrete. And let me use the same concept for continuous line chart. So I'll select the month, I'll select the female birth, and I'll go to show me, and this time I'll select a continuous chart. Now let us see how this particular line continuous and the discrete line chart are different from each other. Now if you can see, when I'm using a discrete line chart, the month value, the pill color of the month is blue, but in continuous line chart, the color of the pill for the month option is green. So the conclusion is that in Tableau, every continuous data is the pill that you're going to use for that will be a a green in color, and for a discrete pill will color will be a blue when you are using a discrete line chart. Now, what is the difference between a discrete and a continuous? So in discrete, whenever you used to click on this particular chart, we are able to make a bifurcation. But what if I click on this particular chart? You can see the changes that are happening over here is not creating any bifurcation in your chart. It is getting transformed from one state of the time to the another. Now from year to quarter, it's getting like this. But over here, if you're going from year to quarter, you can see the chart is getting transformed from one state to another. So we are not getting any bifurcation in our data in terms of the continuous line chart. But in discrete, we are getting the data is getting bifurcated. Now in discrete, we have an option that if you want to have a single line for each of the quarter, we can just drag this quarter option. So we have what we have done. I have clicked on this plus sign and we have created the quarter. Now, what if I bring this quarter onto the color mark? We can see for each of the quarter, we have a single line. But in this case of continuous, we don't have such option. So this is the difference between a discrete and a continuous chart. Continuous allows us to break our data. The discrete chart allows us to break our data, but in continuous, the charts get transformed from one state to another. We don't have an option to create a hierarchy out of that date. The date transform from one state to another in continuous, but in discrete, we have an option to create a hierarchy out of our date. And we can also remove the option. We can just click on the minus sign of the previous field and we can just remove the hierarchy. Now, this was all about the female birth. Now, what if I want to compare the male and the female birth rate using a line chart? How can I do that? So let me bring the male birth rate into the row shelf just beside the female birth, and we can see that both the chart has been both the line chart has been created, one for female and one for male. And you can see there is a segment that has been created. If you can watch carefully in the left hand side, for both the chart there is a different segment created where we can just play around with this particular chart in terms of colors or in terms of size and everything. So for the female, there is a different level of segment in the marks has been created, and for the for the male, there is a different segment of marks that has been created over here. Now, suppose I want to change the color of this particular male chart. You can see this. I have able to change this color differently. Now, instead of creating these two different chart, why can't we have a single axis for both the chart? What if I want to have instead of having two charts with two different axis level, what if I want to have a different, a single axis for both the chart? Now, this is the first time I'm going to show you an example of advanced visualization. That is the concept of dual axis in Tableau. A dual axis is a very beautiful option in Tableau through which we can use it like anything else in order to come when you're working with two different charts. Now let me show you some of the example. The first, in this particular example only, the first thing that you need to keep in mind before you want to use a dual axis, that is Dual access is always available in the second pill. If you can click on this particular second pill, you can find the option of a dual access over here. Dual access is not available in the first pill. Cannot find a dual access option over available. The first criteria is that dual access is available in the second. But now let me click on dual access and see what happens. Now we can see that instead of having two different charts access, we can see that we have a single access for both the chart. Now let us use a control Z and you can just see. So before I apply a dual access, I can see the trend of both the female and the male birth rate were more or less same. Now the moment I apply a dual access, I can see that the female birth rate has increased. The trend of the birth rate has increased compared to the male birth rate, and that is a good sign, I believe. So this is a positive sign because our governments are working very hard on making reforms in order to save girl child and all. So this is a very positive trend that I can see in my data. So this is a very helpful trend. Now, if you can see carefully that both the axes from the female birth rate and the male birth rate have a different numbers of comparison. So both the axes are not same. For 120 in female, we can see there's a different number available in the male axis. So both the axes are not synchronized. So how can you synchronize this axis? We can just right click on this particular axis and there's an option over here, synchronize axis. In this particular axis, you can just right click and you can click on synchronize axis and you can see there's more good news coming our way. So the female birth rate has increased drastically. Now we have what we have both the axes on the same synchronization. Now the trend has improved further in terms of female birth rate. So we can see that in two different scenarios in this particular line chart, we have a quite drastically different information that we can withdraw. We can just drawing from this particular line chart. Now we can also do one thing. We can just right click on this particular axis and we can just choose and disable the show header. So instead of having a two axis, we can have a single axis. And we can change this particular axis. We can edit this particular axis name to birth from female birth, because this particular axis is now showing the details for both female and male. So you can just make this change this axis from female birth to birth only. We can also change this time effect from quarter to month, and you can see the difference for each of the month. There is one more option that is very useful. What, as I mentioned earlier, you can see that for both the charts, for a single female and a male chart, there are two different layers have been created in terms of their axis. Now there's a very important option. Suppose I want to show instead of using a line chart trend for female, I want to change this chart type. I want to keep the male birth rate as a line and I want to make this particular female birth line as a bar graph. So what I can do, I can come over here, and over here there's an option over here. You can see this particular option, automatic. You can click this option and you can see a series of visuals that is available over here. So why can't we use this particular option from here and click on bar, and you can see that the female line chart has been changed to a bar graph. Now this is the first time you can use two different charts in a single visual. And this is only possible with the help of a dual access. Let me show you once more how we can change one of those. So as we have used a dual access means we have a single access for both the chart. Now as we use, the moment I use a dual access, we have got two different options for two different charts over here. So for the female, I want it to be a bar chart instead of a line chart. So what I can do, I can go over here, select this particular option, the female, click on downwards arrow and select a bar graph. I can also select some different graph like an area chart. So you can see it's more applicable. It's more insightful in order to check the trend of the female birth rate and the male birth rate. You can change the color of the male birth rate as per your convenience. Yeah, I guess this looks good. So you can see that how I have used the concept of dual access in Tableau, and I have able to achieve a, a information that is quite different from from where we started initially. So initially things were looking quite different, but now as I changed, we have able to implement a dual access and all. So we have getting quite a different information in terms of male and female birth rate. Now, one more scenario that we can find out. For example, let me show you this data set. Now, suppose I want to find the running total of male and female. So what is a running total? For example, if there are 5 female born in the month of Jan and 5 born in the month of Feb, then the running total for the month of Feb will be 10, because 5 plus 5 from January and 5 from February, the running total will be 10 in the month of Feb. And the running total for the March will be Jan plus Feb plus March. Now, how we can find a running total from this particular line chart? It's a very important step, right? Because in terms of population and all, it's very important to understand the concept of running total, as how many more people are getting added, how many more child is getting added to our population each and every month, or in terms of sales, how many more new sales is happening each month. So running total is a very important concept that we can use in our day-to-day analysis. Now let me change this particular graph into a line graph again. And this time, let us calculate the running total for male and female birth. How? We can just go over here for the male birth, go to quick table calculation, and there is an option over here, see running total. Let me show you once more. Go to, sorry, in the row shelf, go to this pill, and you can just click on this particular option. Now, one more thing before I show you the running total, you can see the moment I have applied a dual access, the shape of this particular pills have changed. So they both have combined to a single pill. So it's being round from both the end, and both female and male pill has combined to a single pill. Now, let us apply running total for each of the male and female and see how this trend changes. So click on this particular female, click on quick table calculation and click on running total. Now see that the female birth running total is ending at 4071, and let me apply the running total for male birth. So you can see the male birth is 4214 and 4071. So how the records has changed with a single uh, with a single change in the way you are calculating things. earlier when I was calculating the male and female birth trend in terms of month and all, so there was a different data information that we are able to withdraw from the analysis. But the moment I applied a running total, means how many new birth has been added each and every month, because you're using a month pill over here. So how the total at the end of the day changes, you can see. So running total can be applied from the pill. You can just need to click over here, go to quick table calculations, and the drop down you can see options like running total. Both you can, now you can see, you can also see that the moment I have applied a running total, there is a triangle sign that has been updated over here. Means there is a running total applied in this particular measure. Excuse me. So if you want to clear a running total, you can just come down and you can again or get an option over here, clear table calculation, and you can see that both the graphs will be reinstated into their previous form. So let me apply running total over here. Now what if I want to, as I can see, there is the trend of this particular male Burr has been straight. Now the running total is giving me a different scenario. I can see there is a down, the birth rate has actually decreased over this point of time compared to this one. So there is an option in Tableau where you can just add a note over here. For example, I want to add a point over here. You can just right click over here and go to Annotate and click on point. And what you can do, you can just add a note over here, the point of change. So you can see there's a note that I have added over here. If you can click over here, you can see this at this particular point, there is a comment I have added. So this is a very good example of dual access where we have used the concept of dual access, and we have to we can find a completely different scenario from where we have started of using a two different charts in our visuals. So this was all about the line chart. The next example that I'm going to show you is how we can use a concept of dual access to achieve much more, what you can say, we can make our chart much more interactive and dynamic in nature. For example, let me come back to this bar graph. Now, if I add a fuel type in this particular bar graph, you can see, let me do one thing. Suppose, let me remove this caption also, then it will be easy for you to understand. Now, suppose this is a bar graph which I have used to show you the number of cards which are present in terms of body style. Now, what if I want to show the fuel type for each of the body styles? So I'll bring the fuel type over the color section, and you can see the moment I bring the fuel type over the color section, the total numbers for each of the car has been moved out. There is no total available. Even if I click on this T, the totals, I'm not able to see the totals over here. Even if I click on this label part, I can see the overlapping values. So in order to see the values, see, for example, let me show you once more. If I remove the fuel type, I can see the total for each of the car. Now, what if I want to know what are the how many cars over here are petrol and how many cars over here diesel. So let me bring the fuel type into the color mark, and you can see the number of petrol and number of diesel, but I am not able to see the total for each of the, even if I click on this T, even if I click on this label, I'm not able to see the total. They are going away. I can only see the segment total. Even I cannot see the total that should be valid over here. Like over here, if I hover a mouse, you can see there should be 3 over here, which I'm not able to see. So I can achieve this overlapping option from the label. Click on this label option and click on this particular checkbox, and you can see that I can see the overlapping totals. But what about the total value which was there? Again, we'll be using the concept of dual access. How? In this case, we can see that we are using our body style and number of records for showing the bar graph. What I will do, I will bring the number of records again over here, and I will create one more bar graph over here. What I have done, I'll bring the number of records. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can see how handy is this particular option that Tableau creates by default, the number of records. So I can just bring the number of records from here, and you can just release in the row shelf, and you can see 2 charts that has been created. And as I mentioned, I can remove the chart from here, and I can get a simple chart. And what I can do, I can convert this chart from a line graph. So whatever working I'm doing over here, I'm doing in the second chart. So what I have done, this is a normal chart. I have bought the number of records in the row shelf first, second. From the second chart, what I have done, I have removed the fuel type. So all the changes I'm making now, from after removing the fuel type, I'm changing the chart type. To change the chart type, click on automatic option, select a line, and you can see this particular chart has been changed to a line graph. Now what we will do, again we'll go to this particular section, click on this, and as I mentioned, dual axis is always available in this particular second pill. Click on this pill, select dual axis, and you can see that Tableau by default have changed both the chart types. So the moment I select a dual axis from here, Tableau is intelligent enough to understand, okay, fine, I need to, so this for this particular type of chart, the best chart I can give you is this. But we have an option to change this chart, right? You can go back over here and you can again select a bar graph. You can synchronize the axis. Or you can just choose to remove one of the axes. So what you can see that I have brought the total in the middle of each of the chart. And what I can do, in order to remove this line, click on this bar and you can just decrease the opacity. And you can see that I have removed the lines, and now I have totals of each and every bar graph that is over here. So what I have done, I have changed the alignment of the totals. So for each of the bar, I have the totals now, which is at the top of each of the bar. And along with the total, now I have the option to see that for 94, I have this much of car in diesel and this much of car in the petrol segment. So this is one more example where I have used the concept of dual access to show the totals of of a bar graph in terms of segmentation, fuel type. The next example, I will try to build a donut chart. So I have already bought a donut chart over here. I have a pie chart. And if you remember, let me show you how a donut chart looks. A donut chart, as the name implies, like it looks like a donut with a hollow in between. So let me show you how we can use the concept of dual axis in order to create a donut chart. So this is how a donut chart looks. So in Power BI, we have a default donut chart that is available in the visualization pane. But in Tableau, unfortunately, we don't have a donut chart over here. Now, this particular example, before I start the year, so this is a typical example of a stacked bar chart. So if you remember in Power BI, people who have attended that particular session, we can easily get a stacked bar chart from the visual pane, correct? But in Tableau, we can build a stack bar. We also have a stack bar chart in Tableau also, but however, we can build a stack bar chart with the help of a dual axis. This is a kind of a stack bar chart. It's not a complete stack bar chart. The idea behind what this was, how can I show the totals of a stack bar chart at the top using a dual axis concept. Now let me show you how you can build a donut chart. Now suppose this is the pie chart that I have used. So let me remove all the options over here. And what I can do, I can bring this particular number of records once more over here. And what I can do, I can just click on this particular option and I can select a minimum or maximum aggregation. And I can see that there's a bar. We have again reinstated this particular pie chart. Now let me create a copy of this particular number of records, and what I will do, I will remove all the options from the second pie chart. And what I will do, I will click on this particular option, click on dual axis, and for the first pie chart, let me increase the size, and here we go with the donut chart. We can also change the color for the second pie chart, and you can increase the size of this particular. Now I'm sure nobody has understood what I have done. Don't worry, I'll show you once more. So this requires a lot of practice, guys, because building a donut chart in Tableau is sometimes is very confusing. So let me create once more. So what I will do, let me make things. So I go to over here. Okay, now this is a pie chart that we have, correct? Now what I will do, I'll bring a number of records over here. The moment I bring the number of records over here, we can see this particular pie chart has been divided into two parts. The first is the fuel type, and the second is the fuel type diesel. Now what I will do, I'll click on this particular option over here, and from the major option, we need to select minimum or maximum. And we can see that we have got got back our own pie chart. Now hold down your control key and select this particular option over here and drag the number of records as a copy into the next section. Now you can see two pie charts over here. Now as I said that the moment I click created one more copy of the number of records measure, two pie charts over here, and two different labels have been created for each of the pie chart. Now start removing the details from the second pie chart that you have created. You just can drag the things over here, drag it out, and it will be removed from the section, and we'll be only left with the single pie chart over here with one record. Now what I will do again, I will use the concept of dual chart. As dual axis is always available in the second pill, click on this, click on dual axis, and you can see these two charts have been combined. Now what I can do, you can go for the first chart, you can increase the size of the chart. And you can also increase the size of the second chart. And you can change the color to white. And you can bring the number of records to the level part. I can see the total number of records is 195, and out of this 20 is diesel and the rest 175 is petrol. Now just imagine that building a donut chart in Power BI and building a donut chart in Tableau, there is a lot of difference that we follow. Building a donut chart in Power BI is just a point and click. You just need to select the power donut chart. These are the some of the advantage that we have in terms of Power BI and in terms of Tableau. That's why it's very important that you should have the knowledge of both the tools. So I have also worked on donut chart in Power BI. Now I'm working in a donut chart in Tableau. Now see the level of steps that I have gone through in order to build a donut chart in Tableau. Now you can easily differentiate that for which scenario we have to use which kind of chart, and how it is important to know that what are the steps of reproducing each of the visuals for each of the tools. So this was all for today that I wanted to discuss with you. So I try whatever things I have missed in this PPT, I will upload it into the dashboard. Don't worry about that. Tomorrow some assignments are coming in your way in Tableau. Projects of Power BI has been updated into the dashboard. Let me show you the dashboard. So projects has been uploaded over here. You can just access the dashboard over here. Fine, I cannot just allow me. Just a minute, guys. So this is the project. The projects of Power BI has been uploaded over here. You can just practice those projects for your best understanding. So the projects files are uploaded. Let me show you the section. Yeah, you can see the Power BI projects. There are 3 projects as of now that has been uploaded over here. You can click on this link. I can download the projects from the drive. So there are 3 files for each of the project: the data set, the analysis that need to be performed, and the final output of the dashboard in terms of an image. So you can just follow those files. I can just download the files from here. Okay, there are 2 projects. There were 3. There were supposed to be 3. Okay, one more project. I guess I have left. I will upload it by today. So you need to just go to this file. So these each of the folder consists of 3 files, and you can just get the data set, get the final. You can see the final dashboard image, and get to the analysis part, and you can just build the project over here. So projects has been uploaded, and whatever the data set for today's discussion is also uploaded over here. So you can just go through the data set, and we can just continue practicing. So next class, I will continue my discussions on the other topics of Power BI, where I will be talking about how to work on alias, hierarchies, filters, actions, and all. And then I will continue my discussion on dashboards and stories. Now, you can ask me questions, and I can just take some of the questions.
Yes, guys. Deepak, Sai, and Priyansh.
Hello.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah, tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me, Deepak.
Yeah. Can I just get the access to share my screen so that I can explain my question?
Is related to?
It's related to a data set. I have a doubt regarding. I have some doubts on those data sets.
It's a third-party data set?
Yeah. It's a, like I was doing a course and it is from that only.
No, sorry. I prefer not to work on because there's a lot of confusion that I have faced in my past interventions. I'll request you to contact the dataset owner. He will be the right person to answer those things.
From a course in the Coursera only. So it is related to a immigration data set for the
See,
country
that's the
Canada.
best thing. Yeah, if I suggest something, because in my previous also a lot of learners have came up with, and I've suggested, and there's a series of confusion that have created. So it's better that you contact the dataset owner for that. He'll be the right person. They will be the right person to guide you on that, Deepak.
Okay, but I just have a generic question on that. Suppose I have a
Mm-hmm.
data set and there is a column called countries,
Mm-hmm.
and all the countries are there, and there is other columns which are having years like 1980, 1991 to up to 2010. S-
Mm-hmm.
Suppose I want to build a scatter plot from that, and where I can just show the number, the counts, the count of the population on the basis of years for all
Why
the countries.
why need to use a scatter plot for finding the count? You can just go for a comparison, right? For year-wise comparison in a bar graph. Why we need to use a scatter plot for that?
No, just wanted to know if it is possible so that as you
No,
are
no. So
mentioning,
if you wanted to know the count of any particular component of your data in terms of years and all, go for a comparison, right? So you need to understand which visual segment you have to use for any particular data set and for a particular scenario. The things that you are telling me, you need to find a count. Scatterplot will never help you to find the count of your data. You need to
uh,
understand this particular fact.
yeah, the count is already there. My question is that
Uh-huh.
for yearly on for each year, the population is already given in the data set for each countries. So I
Correct.
just want to have like the countries in the x-axis, and I just want to see the data for each countries on the yearly basis, so that I can just do that
You can
thing.
select the countries and the years, right, and go to show me and click on bar graph. It will automatically create for you.
Yeah, the stack. I tried that stacked bar graph and it worked fine. So I was just thinking whether it is possible for the scatter plot or not.
I don't think the scatter plot would be the right approach for
Yeah,
finding the year-wise
I was
population.
trying that and I couldn't do that. So I thought that if it is possible, so I thought to ask you.
No, I don't think so. Scatter plot will be the right approach for you, Deepak.
Okay,
Because if you're
okay,
finding a number of bar cards, you go. It is the best is that you can go for a bar graph.
okay. Then I think it's okay.
The
I thought
approach
that
is
if
wrong
there
actually.
might
Yeah,
be,
that
yeah.
is not a correct
Okay.
approach.
Yeah.
I guess.
So when I tried for bar
Hi,
graph, it worked fine. So okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So yeah.
hi, sir. I have a question. I'm not getting a number of record in a measure for car makers. So, is there any issue, or do I and manually add it? I'm
Are you
not
No,
sure.
getting
no, no.
count, Priyansh?
No, yeah, I'm getting the count of cars. Yeah,
That's what count a number of records. Almost the
No,
same
no.
thing, I guess.
Virat, he's saying, guys. I guess this particular
Okay.
number. You can
Yeah,
share
yeah,
my.
yeah.
Yeah, you can see my screen,
yeah,
Priyansh.
yeah. I can see. Yeah,
You're not getting this particular number of records, right?
yeah,
That's strange. You should get it because Tableau by default create this particular field for you.
yeah. But I got the count of cars.
You got the count, right?
Yeah, yeah,
In which form? This particular form, measure form
yeah,
or what?
yeah, yeah.
So
Major
that's
format.
I guess that's the same thing.
Okay. And
Virat was right. Yeah, yeah, that's the
yeah,
same thing.
okay. And the next question is, whatever the types of different view means different plots you have explained, the same thing will work for Power BI as well. Means the definition part.
Yes, yes, yes. The visual segment remains the same for all, Priyansh. The thing is that the steps of reproducing those visuals differ from tool to tool.
Okay. Okay, got it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Manish.
Yeah, the next person. Naveen, Ashwin, Narayan, Nitin, Piyush K.
Hi, Amit.
Hi. Yeah, tell me, ma'am.
Yeah, so Amit, my question was, as we were on in Power BI, we were doing calculation using DAX expressions. So in Tableau, you know, maybe in future class, are you going to teach us how to do certain calculation? Because I think in complex visualization, we do need to calculate certain columns and all.
Absolutely, ma'am. I'll be talking about the level of details. There's a very important concept in Tableau.
Oh, okay.
So let me
All
show
right.
you.
Thank you.
So let me show you once. Oh, okay, fine. The level of details is over here. In these particular options,
Mm-hmm.
you can create calculated field parameters and all. I will talk about all these things. It is where we work with all the formulas and functions.
Okay.
LOD is an
And
important
another.
concept in Tableau. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'll take those
So,
sessions.
the thing is that today that file that you have shared, it's already a clean file, right? But on a normal scenarios, when we get a file, there are a lot of cleaning that we have to do before you start your visualization. So
What kind? Yeah, that's the same like we do in Power Query in Power BI, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So we'll be using the concept of with these calculations and LOD in order to clean our files, more or less. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So my idea behind this particular course is that I have to, because a lot of people who has joined directly for this particular course Tableau, right? So I can't,
Mhm.
if I would have got a crowd or a group of students who are already attending Power BI, then I could have directly start with the majors in Tableau. The idea behind our iNeuron is iNeuron providing this particular course is that with the
Yeah.
belief that each and every session there's some new people who is joining this course. So we need to design a course in such a way that each and every people can understand from each of the steps. So don't worry, I'll come over those topics. Don't worry.
Yeah, and Amit, I must tell you, as far as the course structure is designed for, like I'm also doing Python, like it's awesome.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'll try to make more this course more interactive in the future.
There's the
Yeah.
parameter that is created in the dimensions, that is measure names. What is that depicting?
Sorry, Nitin. Is this Nitin?
Yes, sir. In the dimensions, the measure names, what is that depicting basically? That is created automatically, measure names.
This one.
Yes, sir.
This is the whenever you're using multiple major names. So this is some these particular fields are created by Tableau background calculations. For it is used mainly by Tableau itself for doing in the future when we'll be working on certain functions and LODs. So these are the features some where Tableau use it as a reference for creating some of the scenarios. So these are by default created by Tableau desktop itself.
Okay. Hello, Piyush here.
Yep, you tell me.
I have one question regarding this course that since we have different type of charts are there, so can we whether we will getting some document on that for which particular type of chart you should be used for particular type of data like this?
I guess instead of document, I'm trying to talk about each of the visuals practically in front of you. And I should that is should be the best source of knowledge instead of reading a document.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. My idea behind is that I could have easily provided you with a document, Piyush, but documents are tends to get lost with the passage of time. And it's very difficult to get into a particular point of the document for future references where it is easy to just to scroll back and forth in terms of the session video that is getting uploaded in our iNeuron YouTube channel. So the idea behind my team is to show all the visuals practically in front of you because so that you can refer it as much as possible and it can be kept in a single point of place and which we can refer with a point and click in a particular part of this particular recorded session. I guess this is the best way that you can have a source of knowledge for learning these kind of things.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Another one question is that many times, whenever we have different type of like data blending, and that part we will cover in future, correct?
Obviously, yes.
And the same time, to connect with Python and this R, and that will also we will connect.
I will try to show if my time permits. If I fail to do so, I will be coming up with videos, detailed videos will be uploaded in 9 Year on YouTube channel. Don't worry, there will a lot of session videos are coming up. So I'm working on those things. So with projects and assignments and a lot of other topics, I'll be covering in detail so that you don't have to just to go around for searching all these things. Don't worry. If time permits, I will try to cover Python and R both integration with Tableau. However, most of the cases, Python and R have a very powerful libraries where you can build beautiful visuals out of those. So in 90% of the cases, it's not required to integrate Python and R with Tableau.
Hello. Hello, Amit.
Thank you, sir.
Shukri here. Yeah.
Yes, Shakri, tell
So,
me.
Amit, so I have seen your screen and there was a difference between the dimensions and measures. So, is that you created the headings, or how do we, if you want, it will be very easy for us to differentiate measures and dimensions that you have given heading. So, when I tried, there was no headings coming, but the what you say columns are divided as two different things. I assume them measures one and the dimensions. So how do we do that, naming of these dimensions and
No
measures?
naming is to be done, sir. In terms of dimensions and measures, see, the thing is that you cannot edit the dimensions and measures that are directly coming from your data source.
Yeah, yeah. But you have got labels, right? Dimensions and measures. There is a label for dimension and measures, right? Heading. There was a heading like dimensions. Under that, they are what all dimensions are there are given.
No, no, these are all by default taken by Tableau desktop. Now, sometimes what happens is some of the dimensions like car ID is a numerical dimension, but sometimes what happens in a lot of cases, in your cases also, it might be possible that car ID may be listed under major. So like this,
No, no, not that. There is a heading, right? Dimensions.
yeah, this one,
Yeah, I didn't
yeah.
get that. That name was not there when I logged into my Tableau desktop and load the data. When I loaded the data, I didn't get the heading like dimension and measure separately.
So what did you get in that
Uh, no
place?
name, no name. But the columns are divided, but there is no name to that.
Mhm.
If you want, I can
It
share the
should
screen.
come, sir, because this is a very important.
Yeah,
You can just take a screenshot and just raise a ticket in a support. I will look into it because
sure.
see, these are not user defined. Dimension and
Yeah,
measure names, heading names are not user defined. These are taken by calculated, yeah, automatically by Tableau desktop, sir.
okay,
So in that case, if it is not coming, I guess you can just close the application and try to reconnect once. This is the best troubleshoot that I can do as of now.
okay, sure, sure, sure. Thanks, Amit.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Raj here. Raj here, sir.
Yeah, Raj, tell me.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. My question is regarding the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
So, sir, you have explained to you different kind of visuals, but we can use like basic, simple visuals like bar graph, for showing the basic things. Not need to use, hi-fi a bit kind of visuals, correct?
Yeah, you can use it bar graph and see the idea is that yeah, unless till the time you are able to solve your business scenarios or business problems using the visuals, there is no harm of using basic visuals or advanced visualization. The thing is that all the visuals has their own role to play in order to solve a particular business scenario. So in as a Tableau analyst or a Power BI analyst, my first point of suggestion for you will be start thinking in terms of business scenarios and the visual will be automatically be come into place. Now, if you want to calculate population state-wise for the country India, now as a Tableau analyst and a Tableau, the first thing that you need to understand the business scenario is all about working on the data category. So whenever the data category comes into focus or the picture, the visuals for that particular category will be a bar graph. Now, if you want to show
Okay.
the birth rate and the female birth rate and the male birth rate for that particular state, that means as per the scenario, from a single visuals, we need to you need to withdraw three important information. First, population. Second, birth rate in terms of male and female. That means there should be two scenarios that I am going to work on. The first, I need to find the trend. Second, I need to find the population state-wise. Now, it is where that the concept of visual second again will come into picture. So you will be using a concept of dual axis in order to build a combo chart, because combo charts in Tableau can be easily developed with the help of a dual axis concept.
Okay.
So the idea
And
behind the take back between this particular example is that instead of thinking about what charts you have to use, start thinking in terms of business scenarios.
okay. So from the scenario, we can understand which chart we should do. My basic question was, even bar charts are used. Like, it's not as if you can't use it or it's very basic.
We can use a bar chart, Raj, but the thing is that depends on the scenario. I never think in terms of
Okay,
visuals.
okay,
That is not my way of thinking.
okay.
That's why I'm very keen in what scenario you are asking me. You're not asking me any scenario, you're asking me for the visuals. That's the difference. That's the thing you need to grow over the period of practice.
Okay. And sir, regarding Power BI, actually, I've been going through that. You had told that the whole DAX formulas will be created, and the document has been put up.
Yes, there's already in the dashboard.
Okay.
And the data modeling, you can see data modeling in Power BI. You can see there's important DAX measures are there. You can just go and check over that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, guys. Thank you, Amit, for
Thanks,
a
Virat.
wonderful session. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think it's already more than like 20 minutes from the session, right? So yeah, guys, whoever's question was not answered, unfortunately, right? So you can ping in our Skype support. We'll try to answer all your queries there. And a very happy Eid to everyone. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.